Good afternoon, class. So we are continuing our discussion about equations. We are still going to be using the I can statement from last week, so you don't need to write this down because you already have it written down. And it says, I can solve simple one-step and two-step linear equations. So now we have to think for just a second. It's really important to remember inverse operations. That inverse means opposite operations. So we have this idea that what's the opposite operation of multiplication? Well, it's that division. And what's the opposite of division? Well, that's multiplication. So here's where this comes in handy. So if we remember PEMDAS backwards, we have PEMDAS, okay? So we always start with our parentheses and exponents if we can do them, okay? But then we go to subtraction, addition, and all that good stuff. So here's the really cool thing, is the opposites are right next to each other. So if you can just remember that whether you are using PEMDAS forwards or PEMDAS backwards, you have the opposite ones right next to each other, okay? So here is some examples. You already wrote these down on your addition notes, so you don't need to write these down again. All right, here's some examples of multiplication and division. So let's just look at that first one. X divided by 3 equals negative 6. I could have said x over 3. I could have said x to the third. Like there's like a few other ways of saying it. But I'm going to go with x over 3. And I see that that's division. So I know the opposite of division is that multiplication. Again, notice I'm not using the x symbol for multiplication. I'm using the dot. You need to keep using that. So I see here that it's being divided by 3. So I'm going to times by 3. Then these two over here on the left side of the equation, I have a 3 and a 3, okay? Really, what this is saying is 3 over 1. So they cancel each other out, okay? Those cancel each other out to be 1. So now I'm going to just write what I've got. I've got x equals, and then I have negative 6 times 3, and that's negative 18. All right, let's look at this other example. I have 18 equals negative 4y. But wait a second, I don't see any operations in this. I want you to think for just a minute if you see any operations. You may see that there is a negative sign here and say, well, that must be subtraction. But it's not. That's a negative sign. It goes with that 4, so it's a negative 4. Now, mathematicians sometimes don't write multiplication out like we do anymore because we get lazy. And so between the negative 4 and the y, there's a hiding multiplication sign. There's a dot right there. So we really have 18 equals negative 4 times y. Well, when I say it that way, we all know I'm going to divide by 4. If I do it to one side, I need to do it to both sides. So now take a second, type it into your calculator. 18 divided by negative 4. Alright, so we typed in 18 divided by negative 4, like I said, and we get out a negative 4.5 equals y. Now remember, we leave our variable on the side of the equation where it started. Just as a sneak peek, even on your paper, you have what we're going to be doing tomorrow. So if you would like to try your hand at a few of these problems, please feel free to do so. But we will be reviewing these tomorrow in class. Bye. Thank you. Have a good night.